What's happening? Ohio's most influential DJ Lottie Dottie, providing you with content, current events, updating you on today's society. And this particular take is kind of unusual for me because I don't even understand why the comparison was even composed of yesterday. And usually, I'm like on it when I hear things like this from these analysts and so forth. But of course, I keep a busy schedule. I got to make a living too. So I usually do these rough draft audios when I have the time. And yeah, obviously, I have some time to do it this morning. Now, the comparison was of Johnny Manziel and Baker Mayfield, as far as in analysts in particular yesterday stated that Baker Mayfield's, this is his situation was worse than Johnny Manziel's was years ago. And yes, of course, in my opinion, I just disagree with it because um if you look at it in its entirety, their careers, I don't even think you have to be Albert Einstein, E equals MC to the third or something like that. I don't even think you have to be, you know, you know, that type of guy to figure out, who had the better career. I think if a person knows a little about football and how the game is played and how you have to have a certain amount of skill set. Well, actually, your skill set it has to be on the highest level because you're getting paid millions of dollars to play this sport, and some even getting like contracts now that's worth 230 million guaranteed. And for me, I think that's the first contract that's ever took place in the NFL. But that's a different topic. But yeah, your skill set has to be on at least a level where you can command that type of money. And um, to compare Baker Mayfield and Johnny Manziel is for me is just laughable. But okay, nevertheless, let's just compare the careers. If you look at Johnny Manziel's career, he played 2 years in the NFL. Of course, yeah, he played for the Browns, but he played 2 years. And during those 2 years, his touchdown to interception ratio was 7-7. He threw for over 1,500 something yards. And he had a rating of 80 point some odd percentages or something like that. Okay. And we go to Baker, and Baker played a total of 5 years, and he's currently still an NFL player in the NFL, even though he got released by the Panthers yesterday. So Baker has 5 years in, and if I'm not mistaken, his first season with the Browns, he set the rookie touchdown. Well, he actually broke the touchdown for rookies. I think he's the first rookie now to set that record. And that year the Browns were 7-8 and won. But Baker Mayfield was a huge part as to why the Browns were 7-8 and 1. And because of that, I think he threw for 27 touchdowns that year. I forgot the interceptions, but he threw for 27 touchdowns that year. And he showed a lot of potential, promise as a quarterback. And for me, I'm not even really a stat guy. I'm working on that part. So, but I felt that, let me go ahead and throw a few stats out here to try to make my point. And he, I forgot how many yards he threw for that year, but I know his rating was 86.4, I think. I know it was at least 86. I don't know if it was point .4 or not, but um, if you look at that alone, that would tell you who is having who still has a career in the NFL actually. But if you want to really look at this in its entirety, well, look at how the first 2 years Johnny Manziel came on the scene. I remember, I think his first game, he showed a little potential, little promise. But I think literally right after that first game, he started showing um, reasons why he shouldn't be in the NFL. And his accuracy was terrible. He couldn't read defenses. And I think he got sacked a lot that year too, his first season. And the one thing that I can't say about maybe the comparison is accurate is their attitude. And I'm gonna touch on that in a few. But um yeah, I think even some of the players on the Browns team at that time on that defensive line, because Johnny was rubbing everybody the wrong way that year, and yeah, they was like letting him know that, okay, dude, who cares about Johnny Manziel? Who cares about making it rain and all that? Who cares about all that? And yeah, when dudes had a chance to pop him one, they would literally like pop him one. They would even take penalties to like let this guy know that he wasn't that good. So, and I even think some of the Browns players that year on that defensive line were allowing this to happen because they were tired of his antics too. So, yeah, if you look at it like that, um, he couldn't read defenses. His accuracy was just dang so inefficient, and his attitude was, was the worst. I mean, nothing can rub a person the wrong way more than a guy who they know he's not good at a particular sport or whatever. They know he's not good. Everybody know he's not good, except for this guy. This guy thinks he's the best, in the world or whatever. And you know, yeah, it's okay to have a mentality like that, but you still have to have a certain level of skill to even portray something like that, a mindset like that, in my opinion. So yeah, it even though it's not supposed to rub a person the wrong way, yeah, sometimes a guy like that can rub you the wrong way. He can get on your skin to a point where you want to, like, resort to violence. This is keep it 100. You want to resort to violence, but um, yeah, he after 2 years the Browns released him, and then he took some time away from football, and then he had some other issues that he was dealing with. I think I could be wrong about this, but I think he took there was one incident where he took a plane, and I think it was to Dallas, and I think he was stalking his girlfriend, and he took a plane to Dallas because that's where she was located at the time, and that ended on not a good note. I forgot what happened between him and the girl, but they wasn't even girlfriend. I don't even think they were together. I think she broke up with him way before he took that plane to Dallas. And again, I could be wrong about this. I'm just trying to remember it as much as I can, as much detail as I can remember back then. But he took I like to think he took a plane to Dallas to stalk his ex-girlfriend. And again, that ended on a bad note. Like I said, I can't remember how it ended. I just know it ended on a bad note. Then he later got, a bipolar diagnosis. And I'm not saying just because you get diagnosed with bipolar, that makes you a bad person or your life is incomplete or you can't be compatible with anybody. I'm not saying all that. But he did receive a bipolar diagnosis later later I'm not saying later that year, but later he got that that was like oh man, I want to say whew, maybe months after that incident he received that bipolar diagnosis, but I'm not sure. But yeah, he did receive a bipolar diagnosis. And then he bounced around in the Canadian Football League for a few. And then that I think that was basically the last time we ever heard of Johnny Manziel until yesterday when the analysts made that laughable comparison between him and Baker. Now, let's go to Baker. Let's continue on with Baker Mayfield's career. He set the rookie record for touchdowns. He set that. And um, as you watch Baker had, again, Baker showed potential. He showed that he could play at this level. And um, was he, accurate to a point where you would look at him as he was worthy of that number one pick in the draft. Some was like, no, he wasn't worthy of the number one pick. And they looked at him and said, okay, yeah, he can get the ball downfield. His accuracy is okay, average at best. But he still showed potential. He still showed promise. Because Baker was lights out in his rookie season. So okay, now we go to his sophomore season. And this is where it gets complicated for Baker. Because I don't know. To me it seems like Baker just for some odd reason he just don't know how to make proper decisions when it comes to his career. It just seems like he's the type of guy that just goes with the flow. And his sophomore season, that off season, it was decided to hire Freddie Kitchens, which was his offensive coordinator. And the decision was made based on Baker Mayfield's bout, his vouching for his vouching for his candidacy as the head coach of the Cleveland Browns. Yeah, Baker Mayfield vouched for that. So they all decided, okay, this is our number one draft pick. He's the quarterback. He's the future of our team. He wants this guy to be the head coach. So okay, hire him as the head coach. Okay, we all know how that ended up. It was a complete failure. It was a complete failure on all levels. Freddie Kitchens couldn't coach. I don't even think he could coach a high school team. Let's just put it out there. Freddie Kitchens was so horrific on all the X's and O's to a point where it just became a comedy show watching the Browns that year. I think Baker, what's that word? Baker digressed that year. I think he threw more touchdowns than interceptions. I'm sorry. I think he threw more interceptions than touchdowns that year. The team, they had the potential, but they wasn't that good. they ended up with a 6-10 record, and I think Baker ended up being one of the worst quarterbacks of that year, of that season. So what happens? Okay, of course, Freddie Kitchens gets fired, and then uh, enter Kevin Stefanski. Now, what I like about Stefanski was his demeanor, and exactly what he said in that press conference that following year. He said that what he knows about Baker Mayfield was his foot mechanics were, not up to par, and that's exactly what he was going to work on with his foot mechanics. So I noticed that too. I noticed when Baker would do the 3-step drop, he would, after he would do the 3-step drop, it was like he was back there dancing when the pressure would come. It was not like he was standing in the pocket and, just plant his foot in the turf and just, throw it to an open receiver or read the defense that year. And yeah, a lot of people put it on Freddie Kitchens, and rightfully so. I like to think that's why he had such a horrible year. The second season was because of Freddie Kitchens' inability to coach X's and O's and so forth. But of course, Kevin Stefanski said that was the main thing he was going to work on with Baker Mayfield. And then that following season, Baker Mayfield had a career resurgence. And of course, COVID season, we all know it was during COVID season. But still, Baker led the team to 11-5 record in a playoff win over the Steelers, and he almost took the team to the AFC Championship game. They actually should have beat Kansas City, but of course they lost that game. But still, Baker played good enough for the Browns to play the AFC Championship that season. Okay, so the Browns fans and everybody thinking everything is all good, right? Now we go to the 2021 season, and okay, now for some odd reason, they played the first game against Kansas City, and Baker was okay. He didn't play great, but he was okay. Then I think they lost the second game. And then, of course, Baker gets injured against the Texans. He breaks his he tore his labrum or something like that, and his collarbone. He broke his collarbone that year. Well, in that game. So, of course, it was contract season the following year. But okay, everybody know why Baker, proceed to play the following games. Proceed to keep playing that season. Everybody know why Baker did that. It was contract season the following year, and he wanted to get the contract that most of them quarterbacks was getting. Them huge. I'm talking about them huge contracts too. I think $40 million a year he was looking at. He was looking to acquire, but of course, his play was just it was just atrocious. He could not throw the ball with no accuracy at all. He was overthrowing receivers. He was throwing the ball at their feet. He was constantly getting sacked because he was holding the ball. Of course, he couldn't read defenses and so forth. But okay, he of course everybody was like the guy's playing with a torn labrum, a broke collarbone. I mean, what do you expect? You expect him to go out there and throw the ball, with any accuracy and be able to throw the ball with any type of precision, or you expect this guy to go out there on the football field and light it up with that type of injury? But the thing some people were saying was, okay, but how's that affecting his decisions on the field? Why is he why would he even try to throw the ball with 3 defenders on 1 receiver? Or why would he, hold the ball to a point where he's taking these sacks and further putting himself in harm's way to make the injury that much more worse? So, okay, you got that going on, and then, gosh, of course, the famous tape comes out where it clearly shows that Baker was like literally not even looking in Beckham's direction. I mean, literally, the tape don't lie. You would see him like three different um, offensive plays where Odell Beckham Jr. was wide open and Baker wasn't even looking this guy's way. So, of course, now he's being accused of, deliberately not throwing Odell Beckham Jr. the ball, which, okay, to the credit of Odell Beckham Jr.'s dad and everybody else in Odell Beckham Jr.'s camp, again, the tape don't lie. The tape showed that Baker was deliberately doing this, so couldn't nobody figure out why he was doing that. But okay, they ended up releasing Odell Beckham Jr. and then that sends a message to Baker saying, "Look, this is your team, man. We following you. We with you. You are quarterback of the future. We know you got this injury. This is why you're not playing good." So, okay, everybody knows the Browns continue to play, and okay, we know how that season ended. Browns missing the playoffs, and then Baker finally deciding after playing, certain amount of games, he was gonna have the surgery. He did not even play in the last game of the season was against the Bengals. Okay, now we come to the following off season, and now we're in, I believe, 2022, and I didn't see this coming, but there was rumblings that the Browns was talking to Deshaun Watson. They were interviewing Deshaun Watson, and I laughed at that too because I'm like, why would Deshaun Watson want to even think about coming to Cleveland? It's cold. Cleveland, they don't have the money to pay this man. Plus, he don't want to play for Cleveland. Why in the world would he want to play for Cleveland? Again, it's cold. Why would he want to come to a city and it's cold all the time? So, of course, initially Deshaun Watson turned down the offer from the Browns, and then again, another famous twist was that the Browns called up Deshaun Watson and then they tell him, "Look, we'll give you $230 million guaranteed." So of course that's gonna make anybody change their mind. That love, like the either like or love money like that, that's gonna make anybody change their mind. So, I'm sorry, not anybody. Anybody that likes or loves money is what I'm saying. It's gonna make them change their mind. So okay, Deshaun Watson gets this, gets this famous contract. Most of the NFL owners are mad and so forth. So now, this is again where I say Baker Mayfield decision making is questionable because, again, he makes another bad decision, and instead of just manning up and believing in his talent and so forth, he chose to go to the front office and tell them he wants to be traded. He wants to be traded. Instead of, looking at the situation as, okay, this is an opportunity for me to showcase my talents to these other 32 teams because I know I'm not going to be here next year, the following year. So this is my opportunity to showcase my talents. Okay, they got Deshaun Watson, fine. Okay, we all know whenever Deshaun Watson comes back to suspicion, I'm not going to start. Okay, fine. Let me take how many games he gets suspended. Let me take that opportunity and go play lights out football the way I know I'm capable of playing. Let me go out here and play Baker Mayfield football and show these other teams that, hey, I was worthy of that number one pick. But instead of thinking like that, Baker chose to pout and, basically cry about it and said that the reason why he wants to be traded is because the Browns basically stabbed him in the back. Okay, but everybody knows when you're playing any sport, it involves that certain amount of money and is generating this certain amount of money, it's a cutthroat business. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows it. Everybody in this business either likes or loves money. That's the bottom line. So, yeah, you have to be aware of the business side of these sports and know that, yeah, at any time, you're replaceable, regardless of how many years you play in the NFL. You're replaceable at any given moment. So, again, Baker chose the wine, and okay, fine. The Browns is like, initially, no, we're not going to trade you. So the Browns waited until Baker finally was like, and to be honest, I don't even know how this went down. The Panthers, came into the fold and decided they wanted to trade for Baker Mayfield, but Baker had to eat the $5 million, and he had to take $3.5 million, and then the Browns paid the other $10 million. So again, for me, that's another questionable decision, because why would you just basically give some odd $5 million away like that? Just to bet on yourself. And then of all teams, you doing it with Carolina Panthers? Who did the Panthers have at that time? I'm like, okay, Christian McCaffrey, but that's all I think they got is Christian McCaffrey. So, okay, fine. The trade was made. Baker ate $5 some million. He ended up getting the 3.5. Then he ended up getting another $10 million from the Browns. So he ended up getting, I think, $13.5 million out the deal. Okay. Now we go to the season. Baker is named the starter. Okay, now Baker, and of course, here we go, the Browns and the Panthers. Everybody's hyping this game up. Even Baker made another questionable decision. Actually, no, it wasn't a questionable decision. It was a dumb decision for me, because why would you have T-shirts made with dog collars talking about Baker is about to be unleashed or something like that? Okay, but okay, the game is played, and of course, Browns is, having a way with the Panthers all the way until the last few minutes of the fourth quarter. Of course, this is before we knew the defense wasn't that good. So Browns give up two absurd touchdowns, and then end up giving a field goal. And then it took a 58-yard field goal from K. York for the Browns to beat the Panthers. So imagine if that game would have went south for the Browns and Baker would have won. Oh my gosh. I don't even want to tell you what the headlines would have looked like with that. But, of course, we know how the Panthers season has went this season. And it ended up, of course, again, with Baker being released. Now, again, the comparison between Baker Mayfield and Johnny Manziel, it's laughable in my opinion. But I will say this, if you're going to make an accurate comparison, then you can compare their attitudes, because, yeah, I would say their attitudes is on par with each other. Because for some odd reason, they both had that, with Johnny Manziel, for example, he had an attitude like he just thought he was the best player in the NFL. And you cannot go in the NFL and have a mentality like that. And, I mean, you can have a mentality like that, but you keep that to yourself. You can go out there with confidence and play with confidence. You can show people that you can play at this level, but you ain't got to run your mouth. You ain't got to, all that talking is obsolete in the NFL. You have to prove that you can play on that level with your play on the field, not with your mouth. You play on the field. And I think Baker, even though he's proven to, to a certain extent that he can play in the NFL, and yeah, to this day, I think he still can play. I don't think Baker is as bad as he is. Yeah, his QBR is the worst in the NFL this year. I get it. I think it's below 27. The QBR is 0 to 100, and I think his is below 27. So yeah, the numbers state that he can't play in the NFL, but I still think Baker can play in the NFL. And yeah, his attitude is on par with Johnny Manziel's, but even his attitude wasn't as bad as Johnny's because Baker does a lot of talking too, but in some instance, Baker backed it up. He's not backing it up this year, but he's backed it up here and there during the course of his career. So, where does Baker go from here? And again, the comparison between him and Johnny, in my opinion, is laughable. So, who had the better career? Of course, Baker. His career is like literally it exceeds all levels past Johnny's career could ever have went in the NFL. So let's just actually I'm just gonna not even talk about Johnny no more and Baker, with that laughable comparison. Because again, it's clear to me who's having the better career still, and it's Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield was a way better quarterback than Johnny Manziel could ever have dreamed. So don't do that to Baker. I can't let people do this to Baker. I'm defending Baker because to compare him to Johnny Manziel is almost like a smack in his face. He's a way better quarterback than Johnny ever could dream of. But where does Baker go from here? Oh man, who knows? Who knows? I think Baker was humbled this year to some degree, and I think Baker kept his attitude in check to some degree too. But I think Baker's got to go look in that mirror. I really believe if Baker gonna have to look, he's gonna have to find it in himself. He's gonna have to go look in that mirror, and he's gonna have to figure out that the common denominator to this problem is him. I believe once he does this, then you'll see a resurgence of his career. But right now, I don't know if Baker has hit rock bottom. I don't know if Baker still feels that he's the best player in the NFL, the best quarterback in the NFL. I don't know what he's feeling like. I don't know. Hey, I'm not Baker Mayfield. I can't tell you how he's feeling. I can only speculate. That's all I can do. But I believe he looks in the mirror and he finds it in himself to realize that the common denominator is him, then I think his career will start taking a turn for the better. So we'll see what happens. But like I said, I had to defend Baker a little. Like I said, I can't defend him this year, but I can defend him when it comes to a guy like Johnny Manziel. And clearly, for me, Baker Mayfield is a way better quarterback than Johnny could ever dream of. But thank you for your time. Y'all, stay safe out there. Stay blessed. You and your families. One love. DJ Lottie Dottie. Later.